Good evening, this is News.PH, but it's not politics as usual. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Advent is all about waiting for Christmas Eve. No, not the gift giving and the Noche Buena, but the birth of the infant Jesus. It also happens that we are in a time of waiting, also for the visit of the Holy Father. Pope Francis will arrive in Manila on January 15 next year. Our guests, Ambassador Henrietta Tita de Villa, former ambassador to the Vatican, Dr. Mike Assis, chairman of the Ateneo's Theology Department, and Bishop Milo Hubert Vergara of the Diocese of Pasig. We spoke to Bishop Milo first. Here with us tonight is Bishop Milo Vergara. Good evening, Bishop Vergara. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening, Pia.
Bishop, before we talk about Pope Francis and his upcoming visit, can you tell us first about your background, how you became a priest?
Well, I was schooled by the Jesuits, no? Blue-blooded Atenean.
Grade school,
high school,
college.
and I finished management engineering course in Ateneo.
Okay. Wow, in fact, very difficult course.
In fact, this year we celebrate our Pearl anniversary. It's our batch's Pearl anniversary. I just celebrated Mass for them prior to our fellowship. No?
So how did an ME graduate from Ateneo, blue-blooded Atenean, end up a priest? And why didn't you choose to become a Jesuit?
First and foremost, I had a search in with the Jesuits, no? And they were very helpful in my intellectual formation, no, in Ateneo, and also in discerning my vocation. I already felt I was called at that time. No? I think I had that retreat in 1983 before I graduated.
83, after the assassination?
Yes.
Okay.
And before graduation, I was thinking about it. And it's interesting, no, that in any response to a vocation, you're still filled with fear if this is the right thing, no, after the rigorous course of management engineering. No? So, and then the precarious situation in the country led me to sort of escape. So I went to the United States, no, to try it out there. Like my other batchmates who ventured, no, I was thinking of taking my MBA in any part of the U.S. Some of my relatives are in New Jersey and New York, no, and at that time, there was an opening when I went there in United Nations, just, you know, the General Services Unit to enter, sort of seeing what will happen. No? I was accepted, no? But it was like a year stint. It was then that, you know, when I was working and living in my own apartment, that I felt something lacking in my life. No? So I really decided this is not for me, and I think I have to respond. Whatever the Lord would be leading me, I would make a leap of faith.
Okay, but you did not join the Jesuits?
No,
right?
no. Well, what happened was when I went back, the first person I consulted was my parish priest in Good Shepherd Parish in Novaliches. Now it's the Good Shepherd Cathedral. Because remember, Manila has been divided. It's now a diocese.
Yes.
So, and then he referred me to San Carlos Seminary. And lo and behold, at that time, there was a starting seminary spearheaded by the late Jaime Cardinal Sin, a seminary for late vocations, those who already graduated from college. And it's called Holy Apostles Senior Seminary. At that time, we were around 137 applicants.
Okay.
And only 11 of us were accepted.
Okay.
See, so that was, the movement of my vocation, and the rest is history. So it was a 5-year formation program. No, I became a priest in 1990.
1990.
Yeah.
Interesting times. Okay. Can we begin? Let's talk about Pope Francis, and have you had any encounters with him, whether it is an up close and personal encounter or from afar, or because as bishop, many people will presume that you already have one or are about to have one, as you are, because you are the head of the committee that is in charge of media for the papal visit.
Well, first and foremost, the reason why I'm in charge of the information and media committee of the papal visit, because right now I'm the chair of the social communications of the CBCP. So it just followed, that I would be the one to sort of take charge of that work. My encounter personally with Pope Francis is really far, because if I go back some months ago, I remember the canonization of John Paul II and John the 23rd. I was there. I was hoping that I would be having a personal encounter, but there were a lot of bishops concelebrating in that mass. No? And I don't know whether we were around close to 1,000 bishops. No?
Okay.
We were there. And when we processed, I was like almost at the back row of the concelebrating.
Of the 1,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's good someone took a photo above of, that I could not even see my face, but I knew I was one of them. And that was my only encounter. I could not even peek into his mitre at that moment.
Yeah, mitre, of course. The hat,
because he was really far. Imagine
Mm.
how many of us. No? But I felt his presence, no? And I listened intently to his homily. I am not adept in Italian, no? But I could grasp a little bit his words, no? Given the little Italian I know, no? And he has a charism and a magnetic presence, no? Even for us bishops.
Even for you, Bishop.
Yeah,
I was about to say nga,
Yeah.
kasi lay people like
Yeah.
me, parang lahat kami na we are so parang nabibighani, or yung everybody's so in love with him, no? Ganun din ba sa mga pares, sa mga obispo, sa mga cardinal? You are in awe of him?
Oh, yes, actually, it's because he speaks in a down-to-earth mode. I think that's how I would put it. He speaks to the heart, no? And whenever he speaks to the heart, even though at times his words may seem harsh, given how he sort of tells what we should do as bishops, ito yung tama eh. So I feel our call to authentic service is something that he drives home in terms of point blank perspective when he tells us, for instance, you bishops, you must smell like sheep. You see, the catchy term, if you want to put it, his words, would conscientize you, because there are times, when you're a bishop, you're a priest, there are moments when you might forget that you must also stoop down, and you must be in touch with your people. I think trying to do multitask might also sidetrack you from what you're doing. So I think his words would really speak to you and tell you, what your priority should be as a shepherd of the church.
During the conclave that elected him Pope, and when the announcement was made, nung sinabi na it is Cardinal Bergoglio and his name is, what were the first thoughts that ran through your mind?
Well, I actually do not know him.
Okay,
Honestly,
so you were wondering, sino? Parang ganun, who?
Yeah.
Parang ganun.
Who's this?
Yeah.
So I had to do my research, do my reading. Of course, there were profiles coming out even prior to the conclave, who were what we call the papabilis.
Yeah.
So, but when
But he wasn't there.
Yeah, but when I heard that the one elected is a Jesuit.
Jesuit. Doon kayo nagsisi.
Yeah.
Oh no, I should have been a Jesuit. Ganon.
Well, you know, the first thing that came to my mind, if you go to Rome, there's you call the Black Pope,
Yes.
the Jesuit.
Jesuit.
And now I was thinking, now we have a White Pope, who is a Jesuit.
Who is a Jesuit? Okay. What did you will meet him again in? Well, you will meet him in January.
Yeah,
And
yes.
again, you're hoping that somehow, some way, you will get to actually.
Yeah, actually, I just received a note from the CBCP, just a few days ago.
You're going to be the Manila Cathedral.
No, not.
What?
No, I will be
You
in
would-
the Manila Cathedral.
Okay.
I'll be with the other bishops. But what I'm hoping is I would have a personal encounter with him. But given my work in managing the concerns of information and media during those sort of 4 days, I wonder how that will take place.
Yeah.
But lo and behold, I received from an email
Yeah.
that I would be one of those bishops
Oo.
who will be like sending off the Holy Father on the last day before he
Monday morning.
rides the plane. So I will be one of the I think 11 bishops.
Wow.
So
Okay.
to line up there, no? So I think I'm blessed, and the reason why I feel blessed is because this year 2015 I'll be celebrating my 25th anniversary as priest. I remember I was ordained 1990. It's 2015.
Yes.
So I think it's a blessing, it's a grace that I will be encountering Pope Francis.
When we come back, more about Pope Francis and his visit in January with Bishop Milo Vergara. News.PH continues with his conversation with Bishop Milo Vergara about the coming of Christ and his Vicar. Bishop Milo Vergara, why is the visit of Pope Francis important in this day and age?
Well, to and for the Philippines, I think it's been 20 years since the visit of St. John Paul II. If you recall, that was 1995 in World Youth Day. It's not every year that the Holy Father visits.
Right.
And we're the only Catholic country in Asia. So I think that visit will touch base with the Holy Father in person. And it's really something that I think all Filipinos, especially Filipino Catholics, would want to experience a personal encounter with him.
Is there any other country that has had a visit from a Pope in the span of 20 years?
Many countries,
Many,
countries.
okay.
If you recall, just this year it was in Korea, in Asia, still in Asia, and then before the visit to the Philippines, he will be coming from Sri Lanka.
No, but like in Korea, so was there a papal visit like from Pope John Paul II or
Well,
Paul VI to Korea?
I think there was, but I cannot recall the exact year.
Okay, okay. A while ago you said, many people will want to encounter Pope Francis. But of course, I mean, an up-close and personal encounter might be a bit impossible for every last one of us.
Yeah.
So what can you say to people who want to meet the Pope in person, but most possibly will not be able to meet him in person?
Well, I think the presence of the Holy Father in whatever channel, in whatever way, is already an encounter. Each day I encounter Pope Francis when I open my tablet, because I read through his and updates on his words, his speeches. So it becomes also food for my soul, because I think he speaks also in behalf of God. I recall when St. John Paul II was here in 1995, just looking at him on TV moves you.
Yeah, makes you cry.
Yeah, makes
Just
you
see him on
cry.
TV, iyak ka na.
Yeah, that's
Oo.
why. I had a personal encounter with John Paul II in 1995.
Okay.
Remember,
Yeah.
I was ordained in 1990,
Yes.
and I was assigned formator in San Carlos Pastoral Formation Complex. I was director at that time in Holy Apostle Senior Seminary.
Okay.
And
So
we
where
w-
exactly did you meet JP2?
Well, what happened then was he had to go to San Carlos because he had to address the Federation of Asian Bishops Conference that was happening at that time.
Okay.
And we were instructed that all the formators of all the seminaries would be in the lobby to welcome him. So we were so excited. That's why I was sort of second in line because I was one of the rectors of the seminary. And I was psyching myself on what to tell him in case, I kiss his hand, meet him in person, look at him. But you know
Then what happened?
Well, you know what happened when he looked at me, I held his hand, nagmano ko. And then he said, "Are you a Filipino?"
Really?
I could not say anything. I could not say anything. Sabi ko, at the back of my mind, nasa Pilipinas ka eh. Mukha ba akong Japanese, Korean?
So what was your response?
Well, I was really speechless.
Speechless,
And then
okay.
that was my moment. It was the next person who passed. It was
okay.
like, just seeing the face of God and he passed.
Oh my, okay.
Yeah.
Well, seeing the face of God, it might take a while.
I know.
But, it might take a while, the waiting. When we had that recollection with you and Cardinal Chito, Cardinal Chito Tagle, both of you spoke a lot about Advent, about that there is grace in waiting. And it's interesting that we have Advent now, we're waiting for the birth of Christ Jesus. We're waiting for Christmas. And then it's like Advent, it is Advent also because we're waiting for Pope Francis.
Yes.
What are the what are the thoughts that go through your mind?
Well, I think the first thing is if we inculcate a spirituality of waiting, it is to cultivate the desire of longing. We all have desire, and we desire for many things, material things, whatever.
Yeah, happiness.
Yeah, happiness.
And things that we ask from God, things we yearn.
So why not cultivate your longing for God? And that's the experience of Advent. You long for Him. And here comes the Vicar of Christ in January 2015. He will be coming here. We long for Him. So I think, given this longing, we should steer in our hearts also a mode of preparation. Because you see, desire is one, but preparation is another thing. We have to prepare for someone who will enter into our lives. For Christmas, it's Christ. So I feel that Christmas Day will be an opportunity where it will be a close encounter. We commemorate the birth of Christ. So, why not prepare for that moment? We do it every year, but I think every year has something distinct and unique. But for us personally, what do I want to prepare myself for as He enters my life this year? In the same vein, it's not every year that the Pope comes to the Philippines. So how can I prepare if that will be a personal encounter in whatever way? And I'm sure the Pope will speak to our hearts, non-verbal or verbal. And it will move us, definitely. But I'm also concerned with the aftermath. Because
what's going to happen after the euphoria of the visit?
Yes, so there's a high of the visit. We will be touched, but then it should move us to action. Because if we encounter Christ through the Pope, then that must move us to a conversion experience that will lead us to lead, upright lives, holy lives. It's a journey, but I think it's something that we have to work hard for.
Conversion.
Yeah.
So the warning sign that we were not moved by either the coming of the infant Jesus or the coming of Pope Francis as Vicar of Christ is that we won't change. We're going to go right back to what we were like before.
It's very sad, but it happens to us. But I think, someone asked me, what touches you when you see Pope Francis? I think one word could be used, authenticity. You see, when he speaks authentically. Yung sa Tagalog pa, totoo eh.
Totoo.
sincere, totoo. No? And I think siguro yun ang hamon sa atin no? Authentic conversion. Yun totoo. Hindi yung balik sa dating ugali. Though it's a lifetime process. But it's a lifetime process. Whenever God calls you, at least you tried and you found ways and means to make that process work.
The theme of the visit, kanina, I thought you were going to say mercy,
Yeah.
but then you said authenticity. But mercy and compassion, the theme of the visit. Even Cardinal Chito, when I interviewed him earlier, he expounded on that, what it really means. And then we heard what both of you said during that recollection about mercy and compassion. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, first of all, I prepared for a recollection on mercy and compassion for my diocese and a group. It's interesting. There are many points I found out. Like one Jesuit moral theologian defined mercy as an act of rescue. Interesting, no?
Yeah.
An act of rescue. So, if you try to look at your life, and you look at mercy in Tagalog, awa ng Diyos, indeed we were rescued. Rescued from our sinfulness. And we should be grateful for God because in and through Jesus Christ, we have been saved. We have been rescued by Him. And shouldn't that be a disposition to also be an instrument for the salvation of others? Because once you realize how you were saved, then you can also lead others to that process. When I was looking at the word compassion, there was something I found out. The Greek term for compassion is splachna.
Splachna.
Yeah, it's Greek. So, but the translation is that it is like entrails from within.
Innards.
That's like from the gut. From the gut. So, and then if you look at the Hebrew term, it's rakamim, which means womb of Yahweh. So, and I don't know if you recall this painting of Rembrandt, The Return of the Prodigal Son. It has been popularized.
Yes.
If you saw the prodigal son going back to his father, his shaved head, is in the front of the belly of the father. But it's like, a depiction of the womb of God. Interesting, no? So I think when you talk of either the Greek term or even the Hebrew term, the call to compassion, first and foremost, is to realize, from within, this is how God shows love to us. And He wants us to be close to Him. The term used in Latin for compassion is cum and patire, which means to suffer with.
To suffer with.
See?
To empathize.
Yeah, to empathize, right. So, if you try to look at it, they say the same thing. How God suffers with us. How God, from the womb, feels our pain. And shows love to us, and makes sure that we feel it amidst the difficulties and the sufferings we face. So, I think the message of the Holy Father in terms of compassion is coming to the Philippines. He wants to suffer with us. He wants us to feel that the womb of God is there to make us feel the love of Jesus. So, He will be going to Tacloban. Even before, He has been already sending this message of compassion. Now it will be in person. That's why I'm sure you have been asking of what will take place in Tacloban.
Yes.
And it's interesting, one event there without any network, camera,
No coverage.
yeah, no coverage, will be with the families that were devastated by both Yolanda and the earthquake in Bohol. So he will be wanting to encounter these people, to listen to their stories. There will be a priest there who will be translating the words of these persons, no, in Italian to the Holy Father. And I'm sure the Holy Father also will be speaking so that he will communicate the compassion of God to them.
So mercy, compassion, authenticity.
Yes.
Emmanuel, no, God is with us.
Yeah,
God
right.
is with us for Christmas and,
Yeah.
and for forever. Final words, Bishop Milo?
It's
Yeah.
the eve before Christmas, no, and I'm sure we have been preparing for our Noche Buenas, and we look forward to it, no, our meal together. But I think the highlight of any eve would also be our Christmas Eve Mass, no, where we will be with Jesus in the Eucharist. No? It is at that moment when we feel His love and we commune with Him. And the Word made flesh is God with us. No? So I'm sure it will be a personal encounter again this Christmas Eve and the whole Christmas season, where Christ enters our hearts. And we look forward to Pope Francis's coming, no? And he will be another encounter with Jesus. And it's our hope that come January 15, we're prepared because we will be meeting Christ.
Thank you very much, Bishop Milo Vergara. News.PH will be back with Ambassador Tita de Villa. Welcome back to News.PH. I'm Pio Ontiveros. In this segment, Ambassador Tita de Villa, who served as ambassador to the Vatican from 1996 to 2001, joins us. Ambassador Tita de Villa, thank you very much for being with us on this Christmas Eve episode of News.PH. Ma'am, let's begin with what were your individual encounters with the Pope? So we're not just talking about Pope Francis, we're talking about Pope John Paul II.
With Pope John Paul II, saint now, I hope plenty, my goodness. When he was canonized as saint, they suddenly came to my mind and crowded all my memory because I had so many encounters with him. And the beautiful thing, which is a blessing in my life, is that he knew me. Yeah, he knew me. He calls me by my first name.
Really?
Yes. Oh, so I guess it must be like what you're feeling now, because imagine, does everybody know that you will be part of the
not
papal
yet.
entourage for media? Oh, that's the closeness that I had with Pope John Paul II. Yes.
Can you, yung mga kwento, yung mga the little encounters, you know, when he calls you by name?
He does. He surprises you with many things, but the immediate impact of Saint John Paul II is that you feel that God has come down in person to you, and it's not a God that is fearful, yung you're scared of, or who brings power like brim and fire with him. No, it's the presence of a loving Father. Yes, he was that. No, he was that. And not just a loving Father, but one who can be your friend, who offers to be your friend. And what is very basic about him is that he, at the end of it, he leads you, or he shows you to Christ. That's the beauty of it. And I remember one friend of mine whom I invited to be in the committee for the papal visit of 1995 is from government, because at that time government really put all the resources of the entire government at the disposal of the church to make the visit beautiful and meaningful, just like now, I guess. He was ready because I only selected about 12. The nunciature said, you can bring 12 to greet the Pope and for the Pope to thank, because he's very, very pleased with the entire visit. So I did. And while we were waiting for the Pope, he was saying, I'm going to tell the Pope so many wrong things about the church. Why people are leaving the church, while at that time, while people don't seem to be listening to the church. I will tell him all this. I just reminded him, please, because you must remember we're 12 and there are others waiting. You cannot grab the whole time for yourself. Leave it to me, he said. But you know, when we got there and I introduced him to the Holy Father,
Hindi na makapagsalita.
Nahulog.
Speechless.
He fell on his knees and started crying, holding on to the, hawak-hawak niyang Pope dito. And all he could say was, Holy Father, forgive me, and forgive my wife. Pagkatapos sabi ko, pati yung asawa mo, sinama mo, and where were all those things that you said you were going to tell the Pope of what's wrong with the church? I don't know, he said. Parang the moment I saw him, I just felt that I am so unworthy of that presence. And that's it. I guess the Pope now, Pope Francis, he calls it the logic of the encounter of presence. And it's a presence, even with Pope John Paul II, a presence of closeness, a presence that brings warmth, a warmth that moves you to serve with love, to reach out to others.
They make us feel like God is truly with us.
Yes, that's it. And a God who cares, a God who loves, not just a God who punishes or who judges or condemns. No.
What were your first thoughts when Cardinal Bergoglio was elected Pope? When you heard his name?
I didn't know him because he was never in the Curia. Maybe once in a while when they're called to Rome to do their ad limina visit. That's every 5 years. They give a report of what happens in their diocese or their country. And then also in the synods, I guess he would be there. But he was never in the Curia. That's why I never heard of him. But there was something that struck me when finally there's a Pope and they open the curtain, no? When he just stood there. For a long while, he just stood there. And the thing is, he asked the people to pray for him. And that afterwards, to pray together with him. Those are very, very nice signals for me. I was really so touched, and I remember myself saying that, God, you really know how to choose whom to send at the right time for your people.
When you say you really know how to choose whom to send at the right time, Pope Francis came just in time, just in the nick of time for the church.
Well, because he follows Pope Benedict, no? Pope Benedict is very different because he was elected quite advanced in age, and Pope Benedict is different in the sense that he's a very good man. I know him. He's also a very dear friend, even from being a cardinal. He's very, very intelligent. And I would say the books that he has written, that I have, he has given me several books that he had written. When you read them, you will understand what the church is all about. And even when they say he's such a bright man, there still is that the basic of it is that it's a church of love, because God is love. That's the very basic of it. And I feel that Pope Francis, having been elected right after Pope Benedict, puts those words of Pope Benedict or those teachings into active, what you call that, expression.
Okay. You will meet Pope Francis this January. Or had you had met him before already?
No.
Not yet. So you will get to meet him this January.
I hope so.
You hope so?
Because we are in charge. I'm in charge of an organization of women in the church, Mother Butler Guild. And you know what we do? We do servant service, really servant service in our parishes. We clean the altar, the sanctuary especially, and we sew the vestments used for Mass. If we don't sew them, we are the ones to procure them. But definitely we wash them and prepare them for Mass. Talagang achay service. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to do the same service for the Masses in the Manila Cathedral and in Luneta. But then I was telling my mother butlers this morning, I was in a hurry nga so that I'd get here on time. I was giving them an orientation. No matter, it's not simply being happy to be there because of the chance to see the Pope. Whether we see him close or we see him far or we don't see him at all in the place where we will be, the fact that we were chosen also to serve, that's a gift already. That's a gift already. And his message of mercy, compassion, and always going out to others, and he always gives expression or gives actual meaning to what it is to reach out to those in the peripheries, to those in the margins. Kaya sabi ko, yung mga those of you who are assigned sa Kubol, because there are 19 communion Kubols spread throughout Luneta up to Taft Avenue.
Wow, okay.
Yes. Can you imagine some of my mother butlers are there in the periphery? Yun ang periphery
Yun
talaga.
ang periphery,
Taft Avenue, wala ka na madidinig doon, no? So I said, be happy, because that's a blessed place where you are.
I guess that's the same message you have for other people who will not be serving, part of the preparations, part of the committees, people who want to meet him. I think there's not a single person in this country who does not want to meet him.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to meet him. It's like, kulang na lang dudumugin siya, ng
And
tao.
especially now, because I have to thank media for that also, you people, no? Because terrible din yung consciousness, yung pagdodrum up ng interest for his visit. Although I believe that even if it were not so, people would still run out. I was telling John Paul II when I presented my credentials, because he was still so amazed at the people. He said, I never saw such a big crowd of people in one event. And he was even the one who said, I said, Your Holiness, I think about more than 4 million. No, that would be 5 million or more. There was no space, he said. He never saw so many people, and he was so touched by that.
So what can you say to people who will want to meet him and who most probably will not be able to get, meaning to kiss his hand, to get near him, to touch his vestments or whatever?
First of all, we should already thank God that we are being visited by his Vicar, by his representative on earth, that we are being visited even if we're so far, diba? And be thankful also for his desire to visit is because he wants to be near to the victims of disasters. He wants to bring the closeness of the church, the concern of the church for these people. And then also, let's not be stuck only on the Pope, no? That the be-all and the end-all of the visit is Pope Francis. Pope Francis won't be happy about that.
Yeah.
Because what he wants, when he comes, that he will facilitate an encounter with the Lord for the people. Yeah. Because I remember Cardinal Ratzinger told me once that, do you know that faith is not a set of doctrines? Don't think it's all those social doctrines of the church, the many, many books of teachings. No. Faith is simply a person, the person of Jesus Christ. And then he said, whenever we facilitate a meeting or an encounter with Jesus Christ, we make the church happen and the kingdom come. That's what he told me. I cannot forget that.
I remember Cardinal Chito was saying that the Pope told him, I want you to focus on Jesus, not on me.
Yes. But that's the sabi nga, the real thing.
That's the real
it's
thing.
Jesus. It's not the Pope. The Pope facilitates that awareness about Jesus, and most of all, our opening our hearts and our homes to Jesus. That has been the message since before. Even John Paul II, I remember during his inauguration, he said, open wide the door to Christ. And Pope Benedict said the same thing, and he's saying the same thing. This Pope lang, he has a very, how would you call that? A very marvelous or astounding way of showing us what it means to be a human person. Not just simply a Christian. And we are not just simply for Christians. We are for everyone.
For everyone.
That's why he says, don't judge, but rather always welcome with an embrace of love.
This is, of course, our Christmas Eve episode. So it's so interesting. I remember during the recollection, Cardinal Chito would talk about Advent. So there's the Advent of waiting for Christmas, December 24, December 25. And there's Advent also waiting for the visit of Pope Francis. What were your thoughts about
When
that?
you were saying that,
Yeah.
I guess our life should always be an entire Advent, an entire Advent of waiting for the visitation of Christ, no? And that eagerness, that desire for the arrival of Christ are sometimes always heightened by special events like the coming of the Pope to us. But even without those special events, our entire life must also be a waiting for that arrival, that we see to it that we don't get locked out when he arrives, no? By being sinful, by being wasteful, by being, the lifestyles that we should avoid. Elections are near. I cannot help but put in elections because of PPCRV. The coming of the Holy Father should not only be abstract, thinking of mercy in terms of feeling, must be translated into action. That it must change things that are wrong, no? And one of them, we should change the way elections go and the way we vote. That's a very practical thing for lay people, no? Because that's our field of trying to change society.
Yeah. Your final words, ma'am. Since, like I said, no, this is a Christmas Eve episode, so and then the Advent, waiting for birth of the infant Jesus, waiting for Pope Francis, who all, we have to keep reminding ourselves, no? Keep saying that the focus of his visit should be Jesus, not him. Final words on all of that.
I'd just like to put the practical message here, because I get so many calls. If I can give them tickets, I said, the honest thing, I have no power to give you tickets, no, because we are there in the Kubol, very far.
In Taft Avenue, for example.
Yes, and we don't even have chairs. We cannot bring chairs. So I told them, you have to be able to stand for 6 or 7 hours in your Kubol. Okay. And I would just like to tell to the people who have the resources and the ability to go to Rome, don't crowd out the poor anymore. Give them the best seats, no? Give them the best place. And that's the best preparation, I think, a very practical preparation for the Pope, no? Give it to those who will not even be able to go near if it were only their own resources. Give it to them, leave it to them, leave the space for them, so that we can also show the Pope that, like him, we are not static. We go out to the neediest, to those in the peripheries.
Thank you very much. Ambassador Tita de Villa, thank you so much for being here, ma'am.
Glad to be always with you.
When News.PH returns, Dr. Mike Assis, the chairman of the Ateneo's Theology Department, joins us. This is News.PH. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Dr. Mike Assis, the chairman of the Theology Department of the Ateneo de Manila, joins us. Mike has been our resident church layperson expert through so many church stories and coverages. Mike, thank you for being here on this Christmas Eve episode. Merry Christmas to you.
And you. And Arvin in Beijing.
Yeah, and Tintin, you're right. Okay, Mike. I was going to begin with, did you have an individual encounter with Pope Francis? Of course, no, not yet.
Not with any pope.
Not with any pope.
In the past.
Yeah.
Although I saw John Paul II in Luneta. He passed by the grandstand. We were there.
You were in the grandstand? Or
No, we were
right in front.
Yeah,
Just right in front. Okay.
But it was a quick glimpse of the Pope.
Ako, I have
But that
never
was
seen a
any
pope
pope
in person.
in
no?
person.
On TV, yes. And it affects me. I mean, nakita ko lang si JP2 on TV, naiyak na ako.
But
Ganun
soon
din
you
ang
will
epekto
meet
ni
the
Pope Francis.
Pope.
Yeah, but okay, wait. So, but tell us first, what was that encounter, even from a distance, like, no, seeing the Pope JP2 in front of you?
Well, I've always tried to explain to myself parang why people are so obsessed with meeting a religious figure like the Pope. And I said, I realized, well, perhaps because the Pope represents Jesus or God here on earth. So they really want to have a glimpse of that person. So it's really an encounter with the sacred, I think, for want of a better term. That makes people want to have a glimpse of that kind of figure, of religious figure.
I know I asked you this question when we were when we had that vigil coverage for the conclave and when Pope Francis was elected. But what refresh the memories of our viewers. What were your thoughts when you learned that it was Cardinal Bergoglio, whom we had never heard of before, that was elected?
Well, quite frankly, my thoughts were, it's not Chito. we were routing for. I mean, honestly, Chito.
Yes.
So I was surprised who this Pope was. He was not in the short list that we prepared. We were scrambling for any information about him during the conclave coverage. But then it struck me that for some reason this Pope appeared different. No? He appeared white, very white. No? I remembered all the popes that appeared in the balcony. They were wearing some kind of
The
golden
vest.
garb on them, but he was he was just wearing his white habit. And then he stared at the crowd for a few short seconds. I don't know if he was just, I'm not sure if he didn't know what to say or he was just reflecting on the immense burden or opportunity of the moment or grace of the moment. But then he started to ask people to pray for him. So that was, I think, a very humble gesture from a Pope. And he tried to kneel down, I think. He tried to kneel down and ask for the prayer from the... And I thought parang the people were a bit surprised by that request from the Pope. But then,
So unexpected. No? It was almost like
completely
the rug
unexpected,
was pulled from under.
totally unexpected. Nobody was
Parang
talking about him. Although I heard a few hours after that he was in fact a close contender to the papacy during the election of
2005,
Benedict. But then there was nothing really memorable as far as he was concerned.
So he surprises us on the night of his election, and then he continues to surprise us to this day.
Yeah, until now, no, because barely a day or two after his election, he tried to be different by trying to be very regular. I mean, he tried to pay for his own bill at the hotel. He rode in the bus with his fellow cardinals. He was trying to be different from the other popes by trying to be the regular guy.
He was so unpapal.
In that sense, and that made him very adorable to many people. No? So that endeared him to many Catholics. So the fact that he was always breaking protocol everywhere, no? Even when he was doing liturgy or when he was dealing with the curia and so on and so forth. So he was always breaking protocol. He wanted to be himself. No? I mean, I read somewhere he said that when he became Pope, he decided, I'll decide to be I won't decide to be different. I won't try to change myself. I'm too old to change. I just be myself, and that worked wonders for his leadership in the church.
Are you going to be when he comes here to Manila in January 2015? Are you going to even attempt to go to the Luneta or to go to UST?
By instinct, yes. By instinct, no, any Catholic would want to see the Pope visiting his or her own country. But on second thought, I realized, because this Pope is so accessible, I mean, he's so warm, he's so real, he's so human. My feeling is that I don't have to be there.
You don't have to see him in person.
Don't have, to see him in person because he's so accessible. I'm sure that if he given the chance, if he did be given the chance, I think he would be the one to reach out to people first, before the people going to him. So I think I'd just be happy looking at him on television and just praying with him, with the country, with Cardinal Tagle, of course.
I remember a few episodes back, you and Father Nono, Alfonso, and Professor Ray Aguas, we were talking about Pope Francis also. And one of the things you and Ray said that really struck me was it's so important that after the euphoria of the visit and the visit itself, what happens afterwards? No? Do we go back to our old selves, to our old ways? Is that what is important about the visit?
Yeah, well, I think that's a question that we alone can answer ourselves. No? I mean, what do we do with the visit of a revered, a much loved religious figure like Pope Francis? What do we do? So that's the question we can only answer ourselves. So the problem is many popes, a number of popes have visited the country, but what has happened? We continue to be a very corrupt nation. Violence is in the streets, traffic, we don't give in to traffic. I mean, there's always chaos everywhere in politics, even in the church itself. So it's as though all these papal visits, or at least the divine interventions, have been futile, futile efforts to shape our religious consciousness and our decision to change. So I guess the answer would be, well, if we take the initiative to take this inspiration and help change our lives personally and structurally, change the church, change our priests, change our leaders, hopefully there can be genuine renewal in the church, because the Pope envisions a church for the poor, where the church can really include everyone, the poor, the marginal, the outcasts, even the non-believers, to include in the fold of the church.
You were talking about how you might just, see him on TV na lang. No? I mean, although what is the word you used? I forgot the word.
Accessibility?
Yeah, no, yung parang ang automatic ba sa mga Katoliko na andyan si Pope, pupunta natin. Ano?
Instinct by instinct. Yeah.
By instinct. Oh. So, syempre, there are millions of Filipino Catholics who want to see him. Would you say the same to them? I mean,
that
watching on TV, or
yeah, well, well, certainly,
very few Filipinos will be able to meet him.
Certainly, it's impossible to see the Pope. I mean, it's very hard. It's very hard to have a private audience with the Pope. But certainly, the advice is if we can watch him on TV or pick up a pamphlet about him and so on, and just in the spirit of his humility, in the spirit of his love for the poor, in the spirit of his desire to include the outcasts, in the church, hopefully that can inspire our lives, to be more open, to be more accepting of people despite our differences, our racial, our religious, sexual differences. We can still witness to a kind of church that gives a premium on love of neighbor, and justice, love of neighbor and justice for the poor. So hopefully this visit can 4 days, I heard classes are suspended in Manila, hopefully in Quezon City also. Okay. But anyway, these 4 days will be well, as they say, these days will be grace-filled days. Okay? God will be working, I hope, in a very special way in our hearts.
I always remember, there's grace in waiting. So waiting equals Advent. So we have Advent. This is our Christmas Eve episode. We have 4 Sundays of Advent. We wait for the coming of Christ. And then we also wait for the coming of his Vicar in January. What are your thoughts about that? And what do you want people to remember?
Well, waiting requires a lot of patience. It requires a lot of wisdom. In waiting, in trying to be patient, you learn to be wise. You learn to, in a sense, delay gratification. So with Advent, we really anticipate the coming of something special. Okay, but what makes the occasion of Advent special is that it is in the waiting. It is in the waiting that we garner this strength, this wisdom, this hope of anticipation. Okay, that it is a moment of hope. Waiting is always a moment of hope. That there's always deliverance in the future. Okay, that there is always something good that can happen in the future. But I'm not suggesting that after the Pope's visit, all of the problems of the Filipino, every problem of the Filipino will be solved. But then, as I said, this can be a beginning, a start of hopefully something that could change Filipino society for the better. Okay, and not only address certain aspects of Filipino society, but every aspect of Filipino society: religious, political, civic, spiritual, and so on and so forth. So this is really an opportune time, to pray for the success of the papal visit, in this moment of waiting, in this season where people tend to be more kind, people tend to be more listening, people tend to be more humble, hopefully more merciful and more compassionate in the spirit of the Pope's life and ideals.
Okay, my last question, Mike. Given the kind of Pope that he is, from day one, who never failed to surprise us, who did the most unusual things, what do you think he's going to be doing, that he's going to be saying in January when he comes here?
Well, I don't think he'll be saying something new or anything new. Okay, he will be as regular as he is. Okay, he will, of course, give his speeches against corruption, most likely, against the arrogance of power. Okay, and the blindness of power, the blindness to and the failure to see, the real misery of the people. He will be shying away from spectacular events. I believe I heard that parang he already declined a state dinner, offered by the palace, by Malacanang Palace. He would want to be with the poor, the victims of Yolanda. And he would want, I think, to inspire the priests, the religious, okay, because he believes that, essential to the renewal of the church is if you can change the leaders of the church and hopefully inspire the clerics to be non-clerics, okay, and just do their work as shepherds of the people. So I think he will come here as a pastor more than anything else, a pastor. A shepherd with a clear voice of authority, okay, but using that authority to condemn the evil of power, to condemn the evil of corruption, and use his power to communicate a message of love and mercy and compassion to, Filipinos who are mostly poor, okay, and especially the victims of our recent catastrophes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you, Pia.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you for watching. See you again next Wednesday. Good night. Merry Christmas, everybody.